fuck, wait, the music's going. Oh no, I've forgotten how to stream. Hi guys, hello. I come to you in a closet, which is incredibly ironic considering a lot of things, including where I am right now, other than being in the closet. Anyway, so if the vocal quality is weird, I don't know how this is affecting how I'm sounding, but I am in the closet. I am I'm shocked right now, the difference between my grandparents' like normal Wi-Fi and ours. I have dropped 0 frames. 0 frames. This never happens, guys. Anyway, so yes, I'm in the closet next to some mildly horrifying baby dolls, which is also ironic considering that I'm about to read some horrific. Anyway, hello. Happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. I'm sorry if you celebrate, or if you don't want to celebrate if you're like me. So we're gonna do some Thanksgiving escapism here in the closet, reading Dream SMP horrific. Yeah. Yeehaw. Thanksgiving sucks, in my opinion, but no hate to you if you like it, I guess. I hate Thanksgiving deeply, for many reasons. Anyway, so I'm gonna be reading, the first chapter of Strange Trails, which is Spud's installment of Cat's Cradle, the current one. And then, if my voice holds up, I might read the first chapter of Deviltown. I really want to read the first chapter of Deviltown, but, I don't know. It depends on whether or not my voice holds up. Thanksgiving escapism fanfic in the closet. That's quite the sentence. Yeah. I feel like this is kind of the summary of the last, God knows how many Thanksgivings I've been to. Anyway, so, let's get to it. So let's see, how do I do this again? I quit doing Storytime Sundays. It's been so long. Let's see. So yeah, obviously the warnings we have are graphic depictions of violence and major character death. And it is a horrific, so please keep that in mind. We have, let's see, psychological horror, body horror, supernatural elements, angst, hurt comfort, hurt no comfort. I understand why those two tags work together, but I will not tell you. Dun 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 dun, Eldritch, traumatized Tommy in it. Bah, bah, bah. Yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of the main stuff. Including my personal favorite here, ignore the MCD tag, it gets better, I swear. Everything's fine, guys. Alright, so Strange Trails. And despite the fact that it says our name's on here, Spud's the one who's carrying this one. And is doing an incredible job, even though it's on the 4-3 right now. Proud of you, Spud. 07s in chat for Spud. I love it when MCD fics are tagged, ignore the MCD tag. Yes, that's my favorite. Anyway. So, without further ado, Strange Trails by Concopadwi. Chapter 1. I took a little journey to the unknown. Pardon me. Another handful of coins slips into his satchel, the quiet clinking of them barely audible above the passing crowds and festival music. Someone shouts at him from his wake. Hastily, Tommy shoves the pouch of his boon further into his pack as he picks up the pace. He risks a look over his shoulder. Behind him, a man rubs soothingly at his arm, clipped by Tommy as he passed. Several people accompanying him glance between the man and Tommy, expressions unreadable with the distance. Where Tommy expects the man to have caught on to him, face contorted with anger and ready to march over, he simply calls out again and cautions Tommy to be more careful where he walks. Tommy sighs a breath of relief. Soon after, the man's face blends with the sea of others, and he and his friends remain none the wiser to the cash just swindled off his person. With a grin, Tommy continues onward. The streets are packed tonight, bodies pressed against one another as more festivities begin. Lanterns hang high overhead as Tommy pushes his way through the masses. I'm sorry, I haven't read them so long. Knocking into food and trinket trolleys as he moves along. Oh God. Hollering apologies with each stumbling step. Beneath the golden glow, the scent of treats wafts above the public, courtesy of the outdoor ovens baking festival sweets fresh from their stalls. It mixes with the clamor of stall runners beckoning folks nearby to play a game. Tommy breathes in the smell. If the evening goes smoothly, he hopes to grab a pastry or two before he books it from the city. Maybe he'll stop by a souvenir shack on his way out. After all, the night is long and many hours still lay ahead. There will be plenty of time for himself when all is said and done, and a souvenir would be nice. Maybe one for Tubbo, too. The thought has him eager to continue his work. Here in the city square, the air is thick and muddled with passing conversation roaring in his ears. This year, with the opening of its borders for the first time in well over a decade, the Southern Empire's Spring Festival has brought in an overwhelming number of tourists. Many come from the neighboring kingdom of Kanoko, some from the Isles of Mizu, both nations wealthy and prosperous with trade and well-known allies to the greater United SMP. City Square's population was estimated to be deep into the thousands tonight. And that's where Tommy intends to come into action. The tourists will bring some of their nation's wealth along with them. Loose, expensive jewelry will dangle from fingers and wrists. Notes and coins will lay unguarded in abundance within open bags. Silks will drape from the shoulders of their wearers, easily snatchable and gone with only a quick pass. All of them make for golden targets for someone with nimble fingers and decent luck. Tommy likes to think he qualifies. Laughter rings out from a group of Kanoko girls strolling nearby. When he barrels past them, Tommy twists, and a bright, "Sorry, lovelies," is rushed out in tandem with a cheeky smile and a handful of notes clenched between swift fingers. He adds them to the stash. Under the cover of night and lantern and crowd, he works quickly and efficiently. Years out on the streets of cities have shaped Tommy well for his craft. It's almost like a dance, the way he sways between the hustle of people and remains unfazed, hands slipping quickly from bag to bag as he moves between passers-by. It functions like a duet, in a way. He and the atmosphere of the festival work well together, pushing and pulling with the waves of people under the cobalt sky. It would seem they make for great partners. He's been waiting for an opportunity like this for a long time now. The Empire's festival could be what finally gets us out of here, Tubbo. Think about it. We could finally get out of this shithole. Leave the shack behind, leave the village. We could live out our dream, you and me. I'm not too sure, big man. It seems a bit too risky, doesn't it? Stealing here in Snowchester, no one would bat an eye, sure, but in the Southern Empire? During a festival meant to be a political display? A show of power? It's only been open a short time, and you're asking to lose a hand if you get caught. What if you get put in the arena? What if you don't make it back? You know what they say. The higher the risk, the higher the reward. I'm serious about this, Tommy. I am too. Are you saying you don't think I could do it? After everything we've been through? No, gods, no. If anyone could get away with a plan as shrewd as this, it'd be you. So, I just want you to be safe out there, boss man. It's not worth it if you don't come back. I will. He'll be back home with Tubbo before he knows it, and the thought leaves him buzzing with excitement. He'd had to leave for the trip without saying goodbye. The ferries had to depart early in the morning to avoid an incoming storm, and Tommy elected to leave Tubbo a note rather than shake him awake. And for that, Tubbo will be pissed, but the payoff will be worth it. Once they cash everything in across different pawns, they can finally use the money they've saved and be on their way. Prime knows how long they've been planning for this, for racking up enough cash to finally leave their shitty little shack on the outskirts of Snowchester, for finding a real home somewhere new, in a town that isn't dying and falling apart at the seams. Tommy could finally get a real job and leave his days of begging and thieving behind. He and Tubbo could finally get to work on their inn. All of it is so tantalizingly close to being within their reach. Tommy just has to make it through tonight, and then they'll be free. It's a simple enough plan, and things are going surprisingly well. He drops several more coins into his satchel. It weighs heavy at his side, almost full and a testament to tonight's work. The payoff has been exactly what he'd expected, the prospect of the night's success leaving a sweet taste on his tongue. The anticipation of being done has him nearing a jittery state. He's pretty sure he's riding an adrenaline high. He reaches out towards another bag, the next target just barely within the reach of his fingertips. They only need a little more. Freedom has never been so close. A heavy hand settles against his shoulder. His own freezes, left hanging in the air. It would be an awful shame if you were to do what it appears you're about to, son. Tommy gulps. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. Slowly, his hand makes its way back to his side. Boone lost. Turning, Tommy faces the voice. A man stands before him, tall and broad-shouldered and intimidating. He's dressed near regally in garb indicative of upper class, with robes that flow and shoes that shine. It's possible that he is nobility or somewhere close to it, if Tommy had to guess. He wears armor as well, an incomplete set that Tommy recognizes to be more formal than anything. It glimmers golden under the firelight, intricate designs carved into the metal and jewels set against the chestplate collar. Not a single scuff mark can be seen. From shin guard to pauldron, it radiates power. If not nobility, the man is something just as respected. Tommy stiffens the slightest bit more. He lifts his chin to meet the man's eyes. If the hand on his shoulder hadn't already pinned Tommy in place, meeting the man's gaze is just as capable of getting the job done. His eyes pierce like daggers, deep and emerald, looking Tommy over with stony judgment. His face remains painfully neutral. Tommy offers what he can hope is a charming smile in return. Whoever this man is, he drips with authority. Tommy has to tread carefully. Of course not. I would never, he stammers. There's an awkward pause to the statement, and the weight of the man's scrutiny sits heavy on his shoulders. Maybe that's just his hand, actually, still there to threaten Tommy against running as the seconds pass. Do that, I mean, he continues. Stealing, being a wrong'un. I'm just a guy out for a stroll. Can't a man enjoy a stroll nowadays? A nervous laugh bubbles up from his throat, any further words clashing against his teeth. He winces. Even he doesn't believe his own lie. The man narrows his gaze. You have a lot of nerve, kid. Tommy almost squeaks. I take it this means you don't believe me? The man smirks, just a little. There's a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Not a chance. Any chance you'll look the other way and let me go? Tommy tries. I can pull the orphan card if it helps. The man laughs, bright and bell-like, and Tommy swallows thickly. After a moment, it dies down. You're funny, boy, but unfortunately no, the man admits. His grip on Tommy's shoulder tightens just the slightest. Tommy's heart skips a beat. The man continues. It would seem you've committed theft on Empire lands. My guards and I will be bringing you in on account of breaking Subban law. It's up to you whether or not it will be peacefully. Figures. Tommy's smile dims. He slouches. A guy can't be blamed for asking. Niceties out of the way, Tommy quickly jabs his elbow into the man's side. The man lets out a harsh oof at the action, and Tommy ducks away as he hunches over, narrowly avoiding recapture. There's a split-second opening, and Tommy takes it. He picks a direction and begins to book it, ignoring the shouts for additional guards now ringing out behind him as his feet propel him through the square. His bag jingles at his side. It doesn't take long before another guard is on his tail, shoving his way through the people now clambering to see the excitement and attempting to reach him. The man lunges for him, much to the disturbance of several people in his way, and Tommy swivels to the side to evade. His fight instincts kick into gear. Pulling his satchel over his shoulder, Tommy swings it at the guard's head and sends him tumbling back with a loud thwack. The crowd parts as as the guard's body makes contact with the floor. Much to Tommy's delight, the sound echoes loudly above the crowd. The man groans, but otherwise remains motionless. Tommy sprints onward, jumping over the unconscious body. Internally, he scolds himself. This is what he gets for speaking before the job is done, for getting his hopes up that things would be easy. Tebble always tells him he has a habit of jinxing his luck, and Tommy elects not to think about how he's usually right. Instead, he shifts his focus to clearing himself from the confines of City Square. Now that he's been caught, there's no way he can continue his work. If he manages to escape the clutches of the Subban Guard Patrol, there will no doubt be a warrant out for his arrest spread amongst each unit in the city shortly thereafter. He'll have to end it all early and retreat for the night. That's okay, he's decided. The plan may have fallen short, but he's still collected more than enough to cut back the time it'll take for him and Tubbo to leave the shack behind. Because of that, he'll accept the victory for what it is. The crowd continues to grow thicker despite the late-night hours, people clambering in from the harbor and fresh off the ferries. Where once it provided convenient cover, it now functions as a blockade. Currently, it's preventing Tommy from reaching the winding streets of the rest of the city, and the situation is far from ideal, to say the least. The claustrophobia of it all makes it difficult to breathe. It makes it even more difficult to navigate. He shoves a small group out of the way, bag clutched against his chest as he shouts a quick, "Sorry," and passes them by. The glares that accompany their shock almost sting. His apology holds none of the same charm as the other ones that came before, and he doesn't allow himself time to regret it. He heaves in a lungful of air before the crowd swallows him again and continues marching onward. There are stifled gasps, some shrieks left in his wake as the guards pursue him through the maze of sardine-packed bodies. They're not exactly subtle in their pursuit of him, and it saves him from having to spare an extra glance over his shoulder to see where they are. Flinging his bag back around his shoulder, Tommy leaps over a cart that wheels itself in front of him, landing with a stumble before righting himself against the stall to his left. Behind him, fruit tumbles away from the cart. Should have made it cabbages. If he listens closely, he can hear the cart owner babbling angry at him above the haze of the crowd. He elbows more people out of his way, eyes scanning desperately for a way out above the bumble of it all. A single street stretches on before him in the distance, the closest of anyone else in the square. Wait, what? Anyone? Good God. I can read. The closest of any else in the square. It leads away from the harbor. Away from the harbor isn't what he's looking for. It's actually a far cry from it. The harbor is where he'd planned to stow away on one of the departing ferries. The harbor is where things are most familiar. He'd made sure to scout and map the area to... I can read. God. The harbor is where things are most familiar. He'd made sure to scout and map it to its near entirety before making his way towards the heart of the small city. If he goes down the street ahead, he has no idea what lies beyond. It might lead to a dead end. It could be more trouble. There are only 8 main streets that lead out from the city square, and he'd only had time to study the 3 that could take him back to the harbor's docks. From his current position, each happens to sit in the opposite corners of the square. In his euphoria of successful stunts throughout the night, he'd strayed from them. He doesn't know if he could make it back to them in time now. The street ahead of him spells for dangerous possibilities, and he's already been playing it risky tonight. He doesn't know if he can afford to do so anymore. A voice calls out from behind him, a shout of, "He's over there! Don't lose him!" It's almost lost to the chatter of the festival, but Tommy hears it with crystal clarity. He can see the guards pushing their way towards him, the festival-goers parting for him as they pass through. They're coming in from all sides. If he runs for one of the other streets, they'll catch him for sure. He looks back to the street that leads away from the harbor. He can see the crowd thin the further it stretches. You know what they say, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. He takes a chance. It'll be a small detour, he tells himself. He can sneak back to the harbor later. He pushes his way past the sea of oncomers, moving to pass into the street ahead. From here on out, he's winging it. He hopes Tubbo can forgive him if he goes back to Snowchester a little late. Oh boy. A slight change in plans seems to be a good enough reason. He's pretty sure this counts as him playing it safe. Surely he can't be faulted for that. His feet pound against the cobblestone pavement. When he reaches the street, the first thing he notices is that it's significantly easier to breathe. An immediate upside to the current state of things. The space is wider, less cramped than the square. Businesses set into buildings of stone and brick tower above him, all closed early for the festival. Any usual traffic from carriages or animals has been barred for the night, leaving the street open for when the festival crowds in the square eventually disperse and return to their homes. For that, Tommy's grateful. Granted, the bliss only lasts a second. Now, instead of shoving his way through the crowd, he's running for what could possibly be his life due to the Empire's particular knack for cruel and unusual punishment, which, admittedly, he was warned about, but the couple extra lungfuls of air are nice. He also no longer faces the struggle of having to dodge and sweep his way around passing people. 5 minutes into running down the street, the crowds have dissipated into an off-putting nothing. As the music disappears behind him in the distance placed between himself and the festival, the world seems to go almost completely silent. Almost. There are still commands that cut through the air with the persistence of the chase. And that's enough to urge him to keep moving. The new environment allows him to pick up the pace, to get away faster and with less hassle, with fewer distractions, fewer everything, really, and he's determined to take full advantage of it. The only downside is that now he has significantly less cover. It'll be difficult to throw them off his trail. The guards are close on his heels more often, only finally losing him when he leaves the street behind and dips into a series of alleys. The alleys snatch away the brief reprieve of open air. As he runs, Tommy notes the way the ground steadily inclines as they twist and turn. Looking up, he can see that the building walls tower higher than initially thought. It reminds him of an optical illusion, the way they almost lean in the longer he stares at them. Scattered high and low throughout the alleys are wooden and stone archways that connect each of the buildings. Some creak or crumble as he passes. Others are perched so low he has to duck beneath them. With the way they hang overhead, looming and decrepit, Tommy forces himself to keep his breathing steady as he moves. They feel like omens, though he can't describe why. With a shaky breath, he reminds himself that the walls aren't actually caving in around him in some twisted facsimile of vertigo. As if to prove him wrong, a single archway collapses in his wake. The rubble scatters itself across the alleys behind him. He moves a bit faster. There's a reason he's never been a fan of tight spaces. As he moves from one alley to another, stitch growing in his side, the maze of the city stretches on. He hasn't found his way back around. Given the way the chase persists, he's beginning to regret entering the alleyways at all. They're thin and difficult to move through, barrels and crates and garbage scattered throughout like obstacles. If he opens his arms to reach the alley walls from where he stands, he's sure his fingertips can graze each respective side. He shudders at the realization. Behind him, the guards call out to one another, barking orders and strategies to the steady beat of feet against the pavement. It hadn't taken them long to find him again after he'd sent the archway crumbling down. They know the alleys and streets far better than him, and with the sound of wood and stone raking itself across the path, it had been easy to pinpoint his location. He's out of his element here, and he knows it. His feet continue to pull him along. Dust kicks up into the air with each step, and the way it settles in his lungs leaves him hacking during the brief pauses he allows himself. He's been running for a while now, dipping into crevices and ducking behind crates as guards pass him by. The reprieves are treasured as they come. Truly, any moment of rest is appreciated. He hadn't actually anticipated this much running. At one point, he'd sent a couple of stray barrels tumbling down the alley as he pushed his way forward. It had been a poor attempt to put more distance between himself and the other party. To his dismay, it hadn't kept them away for long. It seems that no matter what he does, they always end up right back on the end of his tail. It's Subway Surfers. All the more terrifying, he isn't out here alone in his endeavors. Earlier, he'd caught sight of another thief getting tackled by a separate patrol unit earlier that night, the person lured to the Empire Festival for the same opportunities as himself. She'd been around the square, scouting it around the same time he had, and both had made an effort to be prepared several days prior to the event. There'd been an unspoken agreement between the two. Neither would interfere with the other's work. Neither would sell the other out. They were chasing the same goal, and as the saying goes, there is honor among thieves. It's a code that's been honored for what feels as long as time itself. When it comes to a place like Subban, there is only one other, every man for himself. So far, he still had hope for making it out. He would succeed where she did not. He remembers the way the thief had thrashed against the guards' holds, protesting with spittle flying out between sharp snarls and gnashing teeth. She'd given it her all for a sliver of a chance to escape. It was admirable. Between the bravado and aggression, something so wild and fierce it seemed a shade all too similar to his own, he could see now that she'd been terrified. Thieves aren't dealt with kindly in Subban. Walking in, they both knew this. F to Hannah, she's the other thief. Oh, I was thinking it was going to be Bo. Okay, sorry, wait, I interrupted, I got distracted. Sorry, Hannah, sucks to be you, I guess. Where was I? Thieves aren't dealt with kindly in Subban. Walking in, they both knew this. Anyone with half a brain would, and Festival side stealing in a place like this has always been dangerous. Tebo had reason to worry. Everyone knows the score, but that doesn't mean they're always lucky enough to beat it. Tommy hopes he will be the exception. Scanning the area around him doesn't yield many solutions at first. It's stone brick packed against stone brick up along the walls, archways scattered between barrels and crates filled with garbage and debris. Being on the run doesn't exactly aid with the formulation of a plan. He doesn't have much to work with. Eventually, he knows the alleys will come to a stop. It's common sense, knowing that his luck will run thin, or the alleys will, and he'll ultimately be met with a dead end. He only has until then to figure something out. He doesn't know how to make his way back to the streets anymore. He doesn't know if it's even worth trying at this point. The adrenaline is going to wear off soon, and he can feel the pinpricks of pain begin to settle beneath his skin, needling away at his core with a sensation that's nauseating and heavy in his chest. All in all, not a good thing. His advantage over the situation is looking grim. The walls are beginning to lean further in around him, his breath becoming ragged against his lungs. Exhaustion, ever so slowly, has begun to sink into his bones. It's starting to seem like the only way out at this point is up. If he had a higher vantage point, maybe he could finally sort his way through this mess. Something in his brain clicks. Prime Almighty! Up! That's it! Picking up his pace, his gaze shifts from the path ahead to the roofs above. He's scaled buildings before. Hell, he's used the towering walls of Las Nevadas, one of his more frequent stint locations, a tourist trap twice the size of Snowchester with shiny lights that hurt to squint at, and an atmosphere so thick it always buzzed, to get some of those harder-to-reach hidden wonders of the sleepless city. The place was as much a hub for crime as it was paradise, with towers that stretched above shimmering signs and a crime ring that spanned across the entirety of the underground. It was never really his style, the flashy lights and big crowds. It was why, despite everything, he and Tubbo had refused to live there. He could give credit where credit was due. After all, the place was paradise. But to Tommy, it all felt just a little too impersonal, flat. In Las Nevadas, nothing seemed real. There were no connections in the city, no friendly faces past the casino slot machines and scattered bars, just glamour and laughter and rose-tinted lenses. Maybe, in another life, that was what home might have been. It just wasn't this one. Even then, though, when a gig was done, it was nice to climb the rooftops and take in the peace from above it all, let the warm breeze run its fingers through his hair. If he'd said it aloud, Tubbo would never let him hear the end of it, but sometimes, to Tommy, the quiet was far nicer than the constant clangor of below. It was his own little secret, how once in a while he'd indulge himself with it. Sometimes he would drag Tubbo along with him on those calm summer nights, just to look over the beauty of it from the safety of their hidden, tucked-away spaces. There'd be a moment of silence between the two as they sat, and then Tubbo would shoot him a knowing look. Tommy would playfully shove him for it, and the two would laugh long and hard, and the rest of the night would be filled with warm banter. It used to be a once-in-a-while thing, visiting their corners. Then, gradually, they were making the climbs weekly. At some point, it was a trip made almost every other day. He doesn't remember when it became routine. At some point, it just was. Climbing the walls had become somewhat second nature after that. The architecture in Las Nevadas is different, sure, more quartz and sandstone than brick and cobble, but his hands are familiar with sorting out the nooks and crannies and even the most difficult of places. Looking at the stubborn walls now, they don't seem much different. He has a quick glance over his shoulder, then leaps on top of a crate pile to his left. Splinters dig into his fingertips as his hands grasp for purchase, and he launches himself up from one to another, praying to Prime above that the creaking wood doesn't collapse and send him down to the pavement below. They're stacked pretty high here, and a single crate stands as tall as his waist. They don't give. That's good. Pulling himself up from one to another, he continues to move. Just above him is an archway, and above that, scattered window ledges. His heart sputters for a moment. He'd seen the condition of the archways a bit back. The idea of him climbing atop one makes him nervous. Recalling the other thief from earlier, he recognizes he doesn't have much of a choice. Stepping back to make room for change, Tommy propels himself through the air and makes contact with the edge of the archway, scrambling desperately for more purchase against the stone before throwing his legs up after. A bit of debris drops to the ground below, but all else aside, it stands strong. He rolls onto his back, a jittery laugh pressing through his teeth. The top of the archway is flat, and the stone presses coolly up against his spine in firm reassurance that at the very least, this one won't crumble. He thanks Prime above for that. His chest rises up and down, ribs expanding with each new lungful of air. Tommy pulls himself up, balancing on the archway top, and begins to make his way to the window ledges. Much to his luck, they're steep and tall, enough that he only needs to crouch a little as he makes his way to and from them. Some of the ledges are decorated with small gardens, the only sign of life in the alleys. Others just empty enough that he can pull his way up and rest for a few moments between. Some ledges are crumbled, or on the verge of it, the stone dipping away beneath the windows without much more to offer than a shaky grip. The process of moving between them all is tedious. Tommy doesn't think he's used his arms this much in his life, fingers cramping the longer he lets himself break in the spaces between. When he finally makes it to the roof, an effort achieved roughly 9 windows later, his arms feel weak and throb from the strain. Below him, he can finally see that the guards have caught up. His body feels on fire. It doesn't stop him from telling his pursuers to eat shit when their eyes meet his, a victorious grin plastered on his face as he shakes from the adrenaline. "Follow him," one of them calls. Racing across rooftops is not something Tommy has done before. Even still, it's surprising how quickly he gets used to it. The method is simple: leap, roll, stand, then run and repeat. He launches himself off of building after building, using window railings to pull himself up when he misses his mark, and enjoying the way the wind whips through his hair with the speed. From above, he can see the way the festival glows in the far, far distance. He can't help but gape at how far he's run. Truly, the city is a maze. Pulling himself to its top was probably one of his better ideas. At the very least, the view is worth it. A little further out, a ways from the festival but not by much, he can see the famed Colosseum. It stretches up towards the stars, taller than any other building Subban has to offer, and even from a distance, he finds it to be breathtaking. Column pillars carved from stone are scattered around the base of the building, each reaching to the open ceiling of a dim sky. The sandstone architecture of it all is familiar, deep grooves carved into the arena wall's surface. It reflects the festival's flickering light. Torches span across the... Spud. Oh my god, Spud. I need a minute. I wasn't expecting that message. Spud really said get fucked, Tommy, in it. God, okay. The sandstone architecture of it all is familiar, deep grooves carved into the arena wall's surface. It reflects the festival's flickering light. Torches span across the outside, warding off the approaching darkness that drips in from the atmosphere high overhead. Far off, he can make out banners that hang from the entrance, advertising the next competition. His mouth feels dry. If he's caught, there's a fair chance he'll be brought there and placed in one of the cells beneath the surface. Come the next fight, he'd have to win in order to leave. The idea isn't one he would call thrilling. He pushes on. The further he runs, the longer the night seems to stretch on. The sun had only just begun to dip when he'd arrived at the festival. Now it has sunk well below the horizon, the moon hanging high as it pours its light out onto the land. From the festival, song and laughter pierce through the air. Here, however, the world seems to come to a standstill. It's like a moment cut out of time, nothing else alive in the passing seconds with the exception of himself and the guards. Gasps cut against the air. Feet pound against stone, commands are hollered below, and laughter slices through it all from the brief safety of above. When Tommy approaches the city's outskirts, the furthest he's been from the festival all night, the breeze joins them in the chorus of things alive in the quiet evening. The air currents shift just slightly, tugging at Tommy's clothes as he heaves himself up onto the roof of the next building. Oxygen fills his lungs with a comforting chill and nips at his nose. The breeze begs for his attention, drawing his eyes away from the distant buzz of everything he's been running from. This is it, the vantage point he's been looking for. He finds himself drawn to the building ledge, gazing out into the expanses away from the city. Faintly, a tree line settles into his view, green tops kissing the skyline. The wind curls around his shoulders, warm and welcoming as his eyes take in the distant sight. In turn, the festival lights and Colosseum fade into the background, blurred into a mottled gray. If he listens closely, he can almost hear the way the wood croaks with song. For all of his life, Tommy has known woods. Back in Snowchester, the small village had been engulfed in dark oak. The village's outskirts had been encumbered with trees, thick and dense and plentiful with life. They were the source of everything that kept Snowchester alive. Were the skeletons that held up their houses, provided a place to rest with their whittled-away wood, were what stoked the flames that kept shivering bodies warm in the winter. The woods offered them a home, where it felt no one else would. Its trees became a sanctuary, with trunks and branches that climbed so high that sometimes, to the two young boys who fell asleep beneath their canopies, it felt as though they touched the stars. He remembers how he and Tebbo had once raced to their tops one late summer evening, ages upon ages ago, eager to see if they too could reach out and touch the stars hung in the sky. He liked to think they succeeded. They were strong and sturdy, not quite the fabled redwoods of a far-off L'Manberg, but admirable enough that they felt just as mighty. It was in the dark oaks that Tommy foraged for berries alongside Tubbo during the spring seasons, and it was in other forests that he learned the ins and outs of how their greatest marvels worked. Meadows and clearings and flower fields. Each had become something he knew almost as well as the back of his hand. At one point, perhaps even better, he knew how to navigate them, how to read the wildlife, how to find the rivers and creeks that would carve into the forest earth like glimmering scars. The wood taught him a thing or two about how to survive, and from that, he learned how to live. So maybe it's because of this that Tommy makes an impulsive decision. There's some logic behind it, he reasons. He swears. He refuses to admit that it's another risk. If the guards make their way up onto the roofs with him, he could be caught. They're stronger than him, they outnumber him, and if he hadn't climbed to the roofs, he'd have lost his advantage on them ages ago. If he makes it to the harbor, they'll find him on his way down if he isn't quick enough. With the way he's pushed himself tonight, he doesn't think he'll have the strength to be quick by the time he arrives. Prime knows he can't hide. They know his goal is to escape, and they surely recognize that he's been trying to make his way towards the sea to do so all night. It's unfortunate, but Tubbo warned him to think things through on trips like this. Doing that, he can see where all of the threads will lead. So, he reasons that the woods are the best way to go. The guards would know the inner workings of the city, but he's guessed that they'd need hunters to navigate the woods. Some might be able to hold their own, but this is a city through and through, and the guards are city folk. They don't hold much of a candle to Tommy in the woods, not when the forests of Snowchester have been there for him his entire life. Either the guards follow him in and get lost, or they leave to find someone who can track him, buying him time as he gets away. Either way, he wins. If worst comes to worst, he can even live off the woods and stall for days if needed. At least until he can sneak back to the harbor and make his way home to Tubbo. He can't exactly do that if he stays in the city. He'll be found too quickly. All the more enticing, in the woods, he can rest. After everything tonight, he wants to sleep for days. Hey, I got great news about that, Tommy. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Maybe, in the safety of the underbrush, he can. Tommy settles on his decision. Making haste, Tommy puts some more distance between himself and the guards, leaping between several more buildings. From there he descends down the walls of the suburban slums, hopping from archway to archway, windowsill to windowsill. A reverse pattern of his steps from before. This time there are no nearby crates. With shaky hands he grips an old and fallen-apart drainage pipe trailing down the side of an abandoned building instead. There are portions of it chipped away with metal edges that dig uncomfortably into his hands as he grasps for purchase. It will have to do. Wincing, he finally gains a good hold, sliding until his feet once again make contact with the street pavement. Without wasting a spare moment, Tommy begins to book it towards the large field just outside the slums. The field gives him good coverage. From the rooftops, he couldn't quite see just how tall the grasses grew, but here within it, it reaches high enough to graze his cheeks and tickle his chin. He pushes through it as he moves forward, nicking his fingers on the blades as he passes by. Ducking and weaving through the greenery, he avoids the gaze of the guards long enough. By the time he's moved through half of it, his pursuers finally catch sight of him again. Behind him, they once again rally. Ahead of him, the forest looms ever closer. The wood song grows louder. His satchel still jingles with coin pressed against his side. When he reaches the forest's edge, he catches his breath once more. The trees cusp the peak of a hill. Here, away from the city, the air is sweet like maple against his tongue, heavy and sticky with the humidity of the nearby sea. The breeze once more rakes its fingers through his hair. Something hums from the trees in greeting. For one glorious moment, he stalls and takes it all in. Then he waits a moment more. It's not the smartest thing to do, especially not when he's so close to getting away, but Tommy thinks he's earned the right to gloat a little after everything. He turns to face the patrol unit that approaches. A feeling of satisfaction settles warmly in his chest as he sees their breaths hitch, eyes trailing up at the sight of the behemoth in front of them. The trees climb far higher than the ones from home. Here in the dark, it's difficult to make out what type they are. Through their tops, stories upon stories up, the stars struggle to peek through, choked by the leaves. It's no surprise that even now, with as old as these guards may seem, they still appear uneasy at the sight of them. "What, never seen a forest before, boys?" Tommy calls out, a tease as the guards' faces contort with an emotion he can't quite place. Is it apprehension? He hopes so. No, you don't. I would have thought you'd have at least seen your own. Pushing his way to the front of it all is the first guard from the city square, the one he'd elbowed in the gut in order to get away. He looks as worn as Tommy feels, and Tommy wonders briefly if maybe he'd taken more valuables than he initially thought. Maybe he had robbed a noble and hadn't even noticed. He can't think of any reason for why the guards would chase him for as long as they have. And the head of them, too, no less. There's a bit of pride to the thought. He's glad he's given them all a run for their money. "You aren't seriously thinking about going in there," the man calls out. His armor glints in the moonlight, his face struck with an emotion not quite discernible. It's a different look from the one at the heart of the festival, but it's not unkind. Rather odd, all things considering. It's both a statement and a question, the way he phrases it. Tommy huffs a laugh, wheezy and thin as he catches the last of his breath. His heart still beats rapidly in his chest. He grins just a little. Try me. With a cocky salute, he turns and lets the wood consume him. And that's the end. But I'm not yawning because it's boring. Hold on. Yawning is what happens when your brain needs more oxygen. And because I am reading aloud, I have less oxygen, so I'm yawning all the time. Also, like, I have a cold, or I have, like, something that's, like, it's like a lingering oncoming cold. It's coming for me. I can feel it. So, you know, less oxygen. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway. It's time for Deviltown. It's rambly, which takes more air. No, it's nice. It's good. I like it. I like it. Shut up. It's good fic. It's good fic. I ramble more than you do. I write 4K words of rambling about Wilbur Soot all the time. Ugh. Sorry. I can't breathe. Okay. Okay. Let me readjust in this closet. Good God. I need a minute. Today was exhausting. Holy moly. Okay. So we are going to read... We're going to read the first chapter of Deviltown. Let's see. So it's mature for reasons, violence and things, and murder. A little bit of murder. So let's see. Warnings. I got no brain cells. Okay. See, I was here before some of these tags were added. And it was funny. This tag wasn't here when I was here. And I was like starting to read it and I was like, Roxy, why is there only the Carl Nap tag? Why isn't it Quackity too? I was upset. It's okay, don't worry guys. Anyway. Other warnings, let's see. Angst, mystery, horror, implied reference child abuse, implied reference character death, small town horror, dysfunctional families, religious trauma, murder, blood, hallucinations, and implied reference to Skeppy. Be real careful about that Skeppy there, guys. Don't want to get skepped. Anyway, we gonna read the first chapter. I love this fic so deeply. I wrote fic for this fic, and I think that puts it in perspective because I just don't write fic for other fics most of the time. Okay. Deviltown by Hooray. Is that how you pronounce it? I just say hooray because there's two Y's and my brain goes hooray, not hooray, like I normally say it. I just go hooray. So it sounds kind of stupid, but it's fun. Oh, okay. I got it right. Cool. Anyway. Chapter 1. The night that Tommy disappeared is burned into Techno's memory forever. He's turned it over every which way, followed it down familiar paths, and questioned every aspect until his mind spun. Every detail, every decision he made, everywhere he went wrong. Since it happened, he hasn't slept, instead staring at the ceiling and wondering what he could have done differently, should have done differently. He plays it over and over, 100 times in one day. When he reaches the end of it all he's accomplished... Wait, I read that wrong. When he reaches the end of it, all he's accomplished is making himself feel sick. The memory replays again. Techno is sitting at the kitchen table, trying to finish a nearly overdue essay. Phil is at work. He just texted Techno saying it'd be at least another 2 hours before he can leave. It's already 10. Techno wishes this was a more unusual occurrence than it is. If Phil had come home early, he thinks, things might have gone differently. But he doesn't want resentment towards anyone but himself, can't bear to have that bitterness building up in him. So he lets the thought go as quickly as it occurs to him. They'd had money to order out for dinner, cash left behind by Phil, but they'd argued about what they wanted. Tubbo and Tommy were both tense. Techno thinks something happened at school, but he's not the one they ever went to for that kind of shit, so he doesn't ask. He let them bicker over pizza versus Chinese until he couldn't focus on his essay over the sound of it anymore, and then he snatched the money off the counter and told them to eat leftovers instead. In his head, he takes Tommy's side. He orders pizza, and Tubbo pouts, but ultimately the three of them sit at the kitchen table with their slices. Techno even presses to ask why they're both so tense with one another. He talks, he listens, he puts his stupid fucking essay aside, and he focuses on his brothers. In the memory, Techno sits back down at his laptop and ignores them as they dig through the fridge in sulking silence. It's after they've all had something to eat and Techno has made frustrating little progress on his essay that the argument between the two boys escalates. Upstairs, something crashes to the floor, and then he hears a shout. He hesitates first, frustration bitter in his chest. They're 17. They should be capable of solving their own argument, shouldn't they? I was gonna say something, and I shouldn't say it. I was gonna say something, and I shouldn't find that funny. Oh my god. I'm gonna say it. Spoilers for Deviltown. I mean, yeah, Wilbur murdered a guy at 17, so we got a good frame of reference going on here, guys. Anyway, I have some regrets. I'm sorry. I just completely ruined the vibe of the fic. I can't. That was the first place my mind went. Oh god. Anyway, you can tell I'm really tired. Does Techno always need to play intermediary? Fine, he hears Tubbo shout, words audible despite them being on entirely separate floors. Techno can count on one hand the number of times he's heard Tubbo raise his voice in frustration. Have it your way, then. God knows that's all you ever get. Techno is up on his feet and headed for the stairs then, essay left once again interrupted and unfinished. His younger brother's bedroom door is ajar. He'd like to barge in, so he would have simply knocked. Wait, he doesn't like to barge in, so he would have simply knocked and waited for an answer. But Tommy has just started shouting back. I do not ever only get my way. You're acting like a selfish child, Tubbo. I'm acting like a child. You! Techno pushes open the door more aggressively than he intends. It hits something on the floor, someone's backpack, and stops there with a thud. Tommy and Tubbo freeze at the interruption. They're both in pajamas, which makes the argument they're in the middle of all the more ridiculous. Tubbo sits on the edge of his bed, arms crossed over his honeybee pattern. Blech, that was a sentence! Tubbo sits on the edge of his bed, arms crossed over his honeybee patterned t-shirt, and curled in on himself in frustration. Tommy is standing in the middle of the room, striped PJ pants and all, arms thrown wide and face crumpled. Techno steps inside carefully, easing the door shut behind him. There's 100 things he could say. You two want to talk this through with kinder voices? Is one of them. How about we slow down and you explain what's gotten you both so upset? You two care about each other, is another. Whatever petty spat you're having right now isn't worth the anger you're throwing at one another. Don't do this to each other. We still have cash, yet another. Let's go for a drive and get ice cream from the gas station. He says any of those things, and he watches the tension drain from their shoulders and the anger fade from their eyes. They talk things through. They're all okay. Hey, Techno says, still standing in the open doorway and frustration still in his throat. It's 10 at night. You want to save the screaming your heads off for a time when people aren't asleep next door? Or trying to write an English essay that's due in 2 hours? Tommy glowers at him. Fine, whatever. Fuck you. He yanks a hoodie from where it's thrown on his bed and pushes past Techno, footsteps stomping down the hall and the stairs. Tubbo gets to his feet too, starting to go after him, but Techno stops him with one hand. Give him some space, Techno says. Looks to me like you both need to cool off. In his mind, he stops Tommy with an easy hand instead, corrals him back into the bedroom and doesn't let him leave until he's solved this thing with Tubbo. In his mind, the moment Tommy storms out of the room, Techno turns to walk after him. Let's go for a drive, Techno says. Let's walk together. Don't go on your own, Tommy. In his head, he isn't afraid to beg. In his head, on replay, the most important thing is just to keep him here. Don't leave alone, he says. Don't leave. Please don't go. Tubbo deflates. He sits on his bed again. You want to talk about it? Techno asks. No, Tubbo mutters. He kicks at the blankets on his bed and starts to burrow under them. In seconds, all Techno can see is the tips of messy brown hair. He stays in the doorway a moment longer. A muffled slam from the front door is heard from elsewhere in the house. He sighs. Okay. Good night, Tubbo. It's a long second before Tubbo offers his grumbled reply. Night. Techno flicks off the light switch and eases the door shut on his way downstairs. He takes his phone out and sends a text to Tommy. Don't be out long. It's a school night. Fuck you, bitch. Actually, how do you pronounce bitch with an X in there? I don't know. How am I supposed to pronounce a typo? Also, but if they went to go get ice cream, then Wilbur would never have come back, and he would have had all of his issues still, and it would have been sad. So, like, no offense to Tommy, but I'm glad that he got kidnapped by an eldritch abomination. So, you know. It was for the greater good. It's about the journey, not the destination, right? Techno should go after him. This is not a thought he gives himself later, after he's worn this memory into often-traveled paths and bitter what-ifs. This is one he has in the moment, as he looks from the screen of his phone to the laptop sitting on the kitchen table, to the car keys hanging on the fridge. Tommy hasn't been great lately. Techno doesn't even know why, hasn't pushed and prodded enough to get an answer, though he'd suspect it has to do with Wilbur. He was supposed to come home for a week, and he'd bailed on them at the last minute. Techno isn't surprised, and even if Phil was disappointed, Techno's sure he wasn't surprised either. Tubbo doesn't show anything ever, so he doesn't know how he took it. Tommy, though, even after everything, Tommy still looks up to Wilbur like he hung the stars himself. Fuck my life, I'm sad now. Techno doesn't want to put the blame for this on anyone but himself. He doesn't want to face those feelings. He doesn't let himself entertain, what if Wilbur had just come home? What if Wilbur called a little more? What if Wilbur was there to talk to Tommy? He doesn't want to think about those. He pushes them away. Don't worry. I wrote about him thinking about it, Techno. You don't have to worry. Somebody's thinking about it. It's me. I'm thinking about it. Techno should have driven after Tommy. He shouldn't have let him out of his sight. He should have known, somehow, that this was a night he desperately needed to do better. To do more. To be the older brother Tommy needed. Instead, Techno opens up his laptop and he sits down at the kitchen table again. He loses himself in research and in writing. One tab opened after another as the night ticks slowly by. Phil is still not home. Tubbo is still in bed. Tommy is still angry. He doesn't realize the time passing until he submitted his essay and it's nearly midnight. The front door hasn't opened once. In the memory, this is when the sick feeling begins to sink into his stomach. In his mind, it has never left. He's on his feet and back upstairs as soon as he realizes the time. Their bedroom door is closed as he'd left it. Inching it open, he peers inside. Tommy's bed is empty. Tubbo's hair is still visible over the edge of his comforter. For an awful, awful moment, Techno is frozen in place. He doesn't know what to do. Tommy isn't back. His mind supplies him with 100 horrible things that could have happened. A string of terrible, terrible incidents that could have, might have, are happening to his brother right now. Bet you didn't think about the eldritch one. In the memory, he staves them off. He goes back to the kitchen and gets his phone, hoping for a text from Tommy, but there's nothing. It's been almost 2 hours. How hadn't he noticed it had been 2 hours? Techno? He turns. Tubbo stands at the foot of the stairs, rumpled honeybee t-shirt and wide, bleary eyes. For a second, Techno feels like he can't breathe. Tommy didn't come back, Techno blurts out. Tubbo looks like he wakes up in an instant. Neither of them need to say anything else. Tubbo scrambles for his shoes and jacket, and Techno dials Tommy's phone number as he grabs his key. Keys. That's a plural. It rings and rings and rings. It goes to an automated voicemail Tommy never set up. He dials again. He slips on Phil's dumb sandals left by the front door as he rushes outside, Tubbo on his heels. Neither of them remember to lock the door. "Tommy!" Tubbo screams, hands cupped around his mouth. It's midnight. The whole street is asleep. Techno couldn't care less. He hopes they all wake up. Tommy's voicemail picks up. Techno hangs up. He dials again. This is the worst part of the memory. The moment where Techno now knows it is far too late to change anything. The part where the Techno of the past doesn't know yet that it's too late. In his memory, he still hopes and hopes he'll see his brother sitting on some sidewalk under a dimly lit street lamp, or passed out in a McDonald's booth seat while the only employee sweeps up in the back,
or any of a dozen other hiding places Techno can think to look in. He still hopes he'll answer his phone if he keeps calling it. He still hopes they'll go home and find Tommy there, laughing at them for being all worked up over nothing. The Techno of his memory doesn't know yet what the Techno of now does. And that's the worst part of the memory to walk down, the part where nothing he does matters anymore. They drive up and down every street. It's a small town. They live in the middle of fucking nowhere, and there's not many places to look. There's not a lot of places to hide. They drive down barely paved roads out to farms, and Tubbo screams out his window into wide open fields and abandoned barns. They drive down neighborhood streets, all with lights out and darkened windows, and Tubbo shouts his name there too. They circle the McDonald's parking lot, drive behind the only grocery store within 30 minutes, and even check the movie theater that doesn't open on weeknights. There's nothing else in this town besides that, so then they're on the other side of town, where the woods are. Techno has called Tommy 8 times. He's left a voicemail on 2 of them, begging him to answer, desperate for him to pick up or call back. Techno pulls over to the side of the road then, and his shaky fingers type in Phil's number instead. Beside him, he can hear Tubbo quietly whispering, "No, no, no." Techno swears he can hear the words, "not again." It aches in his chest, and it weighs heavy in his stomach. He feels sick in this memory. He hasn't stopped feeling sick since. Hey, do you think Tubbo remembers anything specific about what happened to his mom? Yeah? No? Or, I mean, Quackity's mom? Quackity's mom? You ever think about that? Not again? Anyway, sorry. Distracted. You get stream of consciousness reading Xana tonight instead of, like, professional. If you want professional, go listen to Annex Fins and Marsh's Podfix, that's the word. Anyway. He can't get himself to call Phil. His finger hovers over the button to call, but he can't press it. Can't figure out what words he'd use. He switches screens and texts his father instead. Tommy's missing. He went on a walk 2 hours ago. Sorry. They're still parked in front of the woods. Tubbo's face is drawn and pale in the glare of the streetlight above him. Techno should feel guilty for bringing him here, especially in this fucking situation, but he can't separate that feeling from the overwhelming anxiety already roiling in his gut. He reaches across the dash and opens the glove box in front of Tubbo, taking out the flashlight there. "You don't have to come with me," he tells him. "I'm going to look." Tubbo looks like he's going to be sick. Techno's phone is buzzing in his pocket. He takes it out. Phil is calling. In his mind, he answers it. He owns up to what he's done here and now. He doesn't run and hide. He talks to his own father and tells him what happened. He gets Tubbo out of here because it doesn't matter how much they look tonight. At this point, all he can do is take care of Tubbo. Tommy's already gone. In this memory, he puts the phone in Tubbo's lap. "Tell Phil to pick you up," he says, and then he climbs out of the car and closes the door, barely sparing a glance behind him as he jogs into the woods, flashlight in hand. He shouts Tommy's name until his voice is harsh. He walks until his feet ache and his flashlight starts to flicker. It's all absolutely hopeless, which he knows later, which he's starting to realize now. He stands in the middle of the woods and everything is dark and it is fuzzy and it is cold and it is lonely. Everything is wrong. He's sick to his stomach, he's frozen, his hands weigh more than they should. Tommy isn't here. Tommy isn't anywhere the Techno could think to look. Techno wants to scream. He shouts Tommy's name one more time. His flashlight flickers dangerously. Part of him wants to stay here until the light goes out entirely. Until he has to wait for the sun to come up to make his way home. To be lost and stranded, and to deserve it, at least a little. Common sense makes him turn on his heel. When he finally makes his way back to the street, he finds Phil waiting for him by the car, arms folded. Tubbo is nowhere in sight. Techno can't meet his eyes. He just climbs into the passenger seat. "Techno," Phil starts from the driver's side. "I'm sorry," Techno interrupts before he can say anything else. Exhausted panic bubbles out of his mouth. "I looked everywhere. I drove everywhere. I called him. I just kept calling him, even though he wouldn't answer. And I shouldn't have let him leave, but I did, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix it." "Techno," Phil says again, more forcefully. Techno's words die and rot right there on his tongue. "I'm not angry with you." Techno is silent. In the memory, the statement from Phil falls on deaf ears because Techno is angry with himself, and Phil's feelings don't mean anything to him just then. Phil starts the car. He pulls onto the road. Is Tubbo okay? Techno asks. His voice sounds too small for it to be his. Phil stares straight ahead. He's home. He's scared. Techno breathes out a shaky breath. He shouldn't have left him alone. Tubbo shouldn't be alone at all right now. Their family isn't meant to be split up like this. I'm sorry, Techno says again. Phil taps his fingers on the steering wheel. I wish you hadn't run off like that, especially without your phone. But I'm still not upset with you. I'm just worried. This is a massive understatement. Phil's voice is carefully calm, and Techno's very sure that it's for his own sake and no other reason. He still wonders how much less composed Phil had been when Techno couldn't see, when it was just him and Tubbo. Tubbo terrified and alone, and Phil frantic and helpless at work 30 minutes away and unable to even help search. He hates to imagine it, so he tries not to. He's a coward deep down, and the idea of seeing so much unchecked emotion from both of them scares him. Phil fills him in on everything he's done since Techno texted him. The people he'd called, the places he'd looked. Techno nods along numbly. In this memory, there is only one thing left to do. There is a gaping, miserable ache left stretching in front of him, forever and ever, until the present where Techno lies sleepless in his own bed. Tommy's bed is still and empty. Tommy's bed is empty, and Techno feels sick, and time is long, messy, indiscriminate pit. I forgot to say A. I can't think. Tommy's bed is still empty. Tommy's bed is empty, and Techno feels sick, and time is a long, messy, indiscriminate pit that Techno will be falling through forever. But there is one thing left in this memory before time falls apart. There is a sun coming up over the horizon, and there is a graying sky and a parked car and the beep of a lock as Techno gets out. There is a stretch of sidewalk to either side of their little house, which is already too empty, has been too empty since Wilbur left, and is now 1,000 times worse. And on the side of the sidewalk is Tommy's phone, broken and shattered 30 feet from his own front door. 30 feet. He was 30 feet away. Time stretches on indefinitely in front of Techno. It was the phone bit that got me. Like, I was already hooked, and then I was reading it, and I hit the phone bit, and I was just spamming Roxy. I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck, Roxy? The phone! The fucking phone. He was so close. He was so close. Anyway, wait, I'm gonna back read chat. Yes, I do want Tommy to get kidnapped by an eldritch horror, because the thing about that is, like, it all came, it's turned out for the better in the end. Everybody's okay. There's a little bit less emotional repression going on in the entire family. Quackity got with Carl and Sapnap, so, like, I count this as a net win. Like, yes, Tommy's got a bit of trauma, but haven't we all? Now everyone's properly traumatized. They can share. They can go to family therapy. Isn't that great? It's okay he got kidnapped. It builds character. It had to happen for the plot. I like the plot. I appreciate it. Never have I ever been so invested in a fic where Tommy is just not there for most of it. And Wilbur's not even that major of a character, okay? He's just not there. It adds some spice. He got that trauma flavor. Oh god. Thank you for your support of the plot. You're welcome. Technically, he didn't get with Carl yet. Man's unconscious in the hospital last we saw him. Okay, well, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. They get together. It's fine. Carl flirted with him like that 2 times. In the net small amount of time that Carl was on screen. It's okay, everyone got character development from it. It's okay, you can say it's because Wilbur came home. It is! I will be completely transparent about this. I am excited. I'm excited that Wilbur came home, okay? I can write fan fiction about it and be sad. God. I kind of want to write a fic. This is incredibly cruel and unusual and terrible, and I probably won't do it. Because I'd have to, like, do plot for it.
But I kind of want to write a fic where Wilbur does come home. And then it's Wilbur who gets kidnapped. Like, would they find him? I don't know if they would. Do you think they would? I'm just thinking about this now. Anyway. Yeah. Although I think if it were Wilbur, there would probably be an interesting, like, would it be Tommy or Techno who was getting the, like, oh, I know what's going on. Like, what do you think? Something happened to Tommy and Wilbur sprinted home as fast as possible. You love to see. Oh, God. Yes, I am heavily biased towards Deviltown Wilbur. Thank you for asking. I hold him so gently. I hold him so very gently. Also, D, I'm just saying, there could be some serious, like, techno issues with Tommy being the one to have, like, the voices, because Techno being like, he's my twin. Why isn't it me? You know? Is it because I wasn't a good enough brother? Is it because I quit believing in him? Is it my fault for letting us drift apart? Should I have tried harder? You know? Not to accidentally plot a fanfic of your fanfic live on stream. Why him, not me? Lion Will has, but it's Techno. Oh God, yes. That would be spectacular. That'd be so wonderful. I love the thing I love about any spin-off I can make of Deviltown is that I can just always pack more trauma into Wilbur and Techno. And just look at you and I'm like, oh, I can make you suffer. It's great. I'm still thinking, D, about that pre-canon Wilbur concept. I think about it every day. Every day. Wilbur wouldn't be kidnapped because he is simply too tall. Solution? They just use Ronbu. Everything's fine. Ronbu is taller than Wilbur, so they use him. Oh yes, Clout Farm. What's going on in Clout Farm? Hold on. I still want a cat. Mother will not let me have a cat. I'm very sad. I mean, we have a cat. But I want another cat. Imagine Ronbu getting the voices. Very Walmart Technoblade, though. I don't know. Anyway. I think you can tell I'm not entirely awake, but I also don't plan to go to sleep after this. I'm going to watch the new Ghostbusters movie, and I'm going to mock it mercilessly, because it's probably bad. Oh, he does? Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, baby. Yeehaw. Bow, bow, bow. What if other character had the voices? Yeah, that's kind of it. No, not the wasp poppin'. Anyway. I am in fact sleepy. And I want to write more. I literally posted fic today. I finished a fic yesterday that I can't post yet. And I posted one today, or I updated one. And my monkey brain is like, but you need to post more. Just more. I have the whole week ahead of me off of work. Like, I was already off until Sunday. And then from, like, that next Friday to Friday or whatever, like this Friday to next Friday, I am off. I have nothing to do. So, March grind mode. Yeah, I am back on the March grind mode. How much did I write in March? We're just gonna look at my... I guess you can see my bookmarks there. That kind of tells you a lot about the websites I go to. Let's see. What was I doing back in March? Let's look at my AO3. March. Scrolling. Okay. Fault lines. I am 1,000 winds that blow. A soft epilogue. And then like the week before that I was working on these. Yeah. Thinking about how we won the Undying Love and Affection giveaway, and then even more because of Clout Farm. Aw. Can't say, but I wanted to drop by and say hi. Hi! We're kind of just fucking around at this point. I finished reading and I'm very sleepy, and I'm accidentally plotting fic. Guys, I'm still thinking about my FNAF AU. It's such a banger. It's so good. It's so good. I have no plot, but it's so good. The concept is incredibly emotionally sexy and so painful and will kill you on the spot, and I love it. Ew, they're being affectionate in my chat. I'm just scrolling through my AO3 now. How many of these are zine pieces? Okay, not a lot of these are zine pieces. It is emotionally sexy. I just think Wilbur getting murdered and then not accepting the fact that he's dead, so being in denial of this fact for a good long time, not knowing he's dead, and a heartbroken Phil rebuilding his child. I think it's great. I think it is just fabulous. It is wonderful. Then I guess Phil dies. Sorry about that. Kristen doesn't, though. Don't worry about it. Kristen and Techno are fine. I guess Phil's dead. Nobody tell Roxy. It's kind of how the plot goes, though. Or maybe Phil could not be dead and I could do painful things with that. Yeah, I could do that. Santa will always be like, want to hear about how traumatized Wilbur and want to hear about traumatized Wilbur, and I call it sexy. It's true! Okay? When I say that the concept of C. Wilbur is hot, I mean that I can write him in just an emotionally sexy way. It's not him, it's me. It's me. Specifically. I'm doing a wonderful job. Yes. I can write him very good. Very good. I'm going to write pretty words about him, and it's going to be great. Also, I love the fact that, like, okay, so we had in and Ghosts. The first fic was December 20th, and then January 2nd, and then February 8th, and then February 28th, and then November. God, I had such a gap there. I'm so sorry I did that to you guys. We're close, though. There's like one more chapter, probably, sort of. I don't know. We're getting there. It's gonna be done soon. Soon. So soon. Why did I say body horror? I don't remember why did I put this tag on here? What am I writing? I tried to do all my tags, and then I forgot what they're all supposed to be for. I guess there's body horror in there somewhere. Ish. I think I was going to talk about Wilbur clawing his fingers down to the bone, and then I just kind of didn't. Whoops. I definitely speed ran the last chapter today and suffered. Also, now everybody's waking up from hibernation about Dear Wormwood. Somebody asked Wolfie about it last night. And now everybody is excited about Dear Wormwood again, and I'm like, oh shit, oh fuck. I don't know where my Fundy outline is. I was supposed to write the Fundy fic next, and I don't know where the outline is, and it's probably just gone. So now I have to plot the whole fic again. Oh! So, yeah. God help me. Yeah, rip indeed. Wolfie pinged me in the server last night, and I was like, what is going on? What am I getting pinged for? And it was the Dear Wormwood channel, and Wolfie was like, why is bad Hades? And I was like, I don't remember.
We figured it out. It was fine. But I was just like, fuck if I know. Well, I know nothing about our AU. I know I helped you come up with it, but I don't know anything. I know I'm supposed to be writing it, but I don't know anything. So. I need to work on the ABBA AU. For real, though. Like, God, I'm thinking about the ABBA AU, guys. Problem is, Chapter 6 is a bitch of a chapter, and I don't want to write it. So, I'm working on it. I was going to work on it when we were driving up to my grandparents, because Dad was literally playing ABBA Voyage. Like, I got it for him for his birthday, aka, you know, ABBA's first album in, like, 40 years, the one that inspired me to write the ABBA AU. Because I had kind of already had the ABBA AU, like, knocking around in my head, and then they released new music, and I was like, oh, I should do that. So I did. But we were listening to it on the way up, and I was like, I should work on that. Instead, I finished it when we got here. I finished my Cloud Farm Challenge fic that I also can't wait for you guys to read in, like, a week. So you're gonna get that one soon. So I have something coming, and then I'm working on the Glare fic, and I'm working on the next chapter of the ABBA AU, and I've got half the next, or actually it's not half, I've got like a little bit of the next chapter of this one done, which should be the last one. And then after all of that is finally fucking done, then I can do the next Dear Wormwood fic and get that off my plate, and then maybe I can do Ghosty Boys Inc. But I have so many different AUs, and I made a channel for the Inscription AU today, and I've just been throwing spaghetti at a wall with that one, because I keep having brilliant ideas for it, but also I have no solid overarching plot. I'm suffering. I have too many ideas, guys. So many ideas. So many. I'm also thinking about, every so often, my brain just goes, you know, you should work on that Penumbra fic again. Like, here we go. So I got this one. This one is for, I started writing it for Wolfie, actually. This is Wolfie's old account. And it's chapters 2 of 11. I pulled it up the last night, and I thought about writing it, because I really want to finish it, because, like, it's fucking great. I'm gonna be real with you. My Anastasia AU is fabulous and spectacular, and I have an Anastasia AU. Fucking shit. I made an Anastasia AU for Sleepy Boys Inc. and I forgot about it. Fucking hell. That's another one. That's another one, chat. We're in, like, the 60s now. I hate everything. Anyway. So I want to finish this one, and there's actually this Man from Snowy River fanfiction. There's a Man from Snowy River fanfiction that I want to write at some point. And there's also a half-finished Star Wars fanfiction. Okay, so I have in my Tumblr inbox, there is an ask from 2017 with a fic prompt, and I have it half written somewhere, and I'm gonna finish it, and then I will post it, and there will just, so if you see a random Star Wars fic, that's what that is. I actually might revamp some of my old my old fanfiction.net things. We're gonna... Will you fucking type? Fucking hell. Every time I write some stuff for my AUs and I open the Word doc and then I write a sentence and don't touch the fic for weeks. Yeah, that's a mood. Okay, hold on. My old sued. You're getting some lore here, guys. There's so much shitty fic on here. This is unfortunate. This says a lot about me. Author has written 13 stories for Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Lord of the Rings, Doctor Who, Star Wars The Clone Wars, and Star Wars. Fuck me. Okay, I never finished this one. Oops. I'm not going to think about the fact that I have unfinished fanfiction from March 2017 on my fanfiction.net account. It's fine. I don't think that many people like, followed me on here. It's fine. I reposted this one, actually. God, these suck. This sucks. This sucks. This is okay, I guess, if I don't read it. Okay, look! It was fanfiction.net. I was not even 16 yet, okay? I was 15 years old. This was my first time actually posting fanfiction somewhere that wasn't DeviantArt. My god, why did I just kill? I was like, I'm gonna write about them dying. What did I do that for? God, of thunderstorms and teabags isn't even on here? I guess it's just on my Tumblr. Hold on. We're going on a trip on our favorite rocket ship. Sailing through the sky. Little Einsteins. Alright, let's see. A lot of graphics start out with, what if I killed them all? Okay, here we go. I quit updating this in 2020. Let's see. Okay, Eye of the Storm. Alright. I might revamp that one. Probably not. It kind of sucks. This one also wasn't that bad. Oops, didn't finish this one. This one was alright. I could probably revamp it, but people aren't gonna know what it is because it's an extremely niche Star Wars concept. My friend in art class asked me to write that. I was kind of gay for her, so I did. I don't even remember that. I remember this one. I was so into Ventrobi. Actually, Ventrobi kind of sucks. I mean, that sucks. Why did I say that? It doesn't suck. My brain is associating the wrong words. It's good. It's very good, actually. I had an assassinate that was kind of hot. It's pretty good. I had my 3-sentence fic phase. I did lots of 3-sentence fics. I think you can see. I very much enjoyed it. Ah, the Gilmore Girls AU. Oh, fuck, I didn't want to open that. I don't want to read my old writing. You can see my AUs beginning. I had a lot of collab AUs with my friends. The Lineage Flip AU was a big one. The Suicide Squad AU was also another one. Burn It to the Ground was another. You're just getting lore tonight. Yeah. Good old Doctor Who fic. We don't talk about my phase of writing self-insert Doctor Who fanfictions. Or self-insert Rise of the Brave Tangled Frozen Dragons fanfictions. Oh boy. Oh, in ye olden days did I ever write things. Or the self-insert Harry Potter Marauder era fanfiction. That one had potential, but also was bad. It was very bad. But yeah. Old shit. Yeehaw. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and end stream now. Because I am, in fact, rather tired, and I have... I have a movie waiting for me. So I will leave you now. Bye.